Welcome to On the Way to School, your 6-minute daily boost for educators and administrators. I'm Christopher S. Dennis, and today, let's elevate our journey together. Good morning. Welcome to the ride. And I'm looking forward to today's conversation because we teased it at the end of yesterday's episode was about student discipline. Today's episode is about being on the receiving end of a corrective action or, discipline as an employee. So before we get into that, I also need to disclose this recipe that I talked up also in yesterday's episode. So, all right, here it is, folks. Okay. If you want the recipe for my fake Jack Daniel's glaze sauce, all it is teriyaki sauce, brown sugar, some garlic, a little water, mix it up in a saucepan, put some pineapples and some pineapple juice in there to taste. And you can marinate, glaze, and cook just about anything. Changes the game, folks. Changes the game. I will not commit to a cooking podcast because it will be a very short-lived series. But that's that. So again, on the way to school today, disciplinary measures as an employee. So you are either an administrator or a faculty member, and you have been on the receiving end of a conduct violation. Okay. That could be anything. That could be there was a student who complained. That could be a family complaint. That could be you were observed, just kind of being out of line with something. And you go through the process, and that process should include actually someone in your administration sitting down with you, informing you of the violation, walking you through your school's policies, giving you a chance to respond, and then there being an outcome. Okay. So whatever that outcome is, be it a training, be it a probation, be it a time off, whatever that is, there are three things that I think are never talked about kind of publicly. It's more so things that you have to go find and deal with privately. So those things, the three things that people will typically need to deal with as a school employee on the receiving end of a disciplinary matter is dealing with shame, seeking support, and dealing with accountability. Okay. None of this is comfortable. None of this is, easily maneuvered. And it is a very hard thing to absorb and really bounce back from. But if your school is doing it right, it should be a very private matter. It's discreet, and you are given the utmost respect to have the opportunity to bounce back and grow from the moment. All of the matters are administrative. They're not legal matters. So you should be able to be given the opportunity to grow, demonstrate growth, and return and have an amazing, school year. But you will have to deal with some things. So first, let's address shame. And, there's something called the compass of shame that I use in conversations around restorative practices and things like that. So the compass of shame, kind of on the north-south axis, are things like withdrawal would be the north, avoidance would be the south, attack would be the east, attack self would be the east, attack others would be the west. So when we say attack, we're talking about things such as like, oh, I'm going to turn the tables, or I'm going to blame the victim, or lashing out would be an example of attacking others. An example of attacking self would be like putting yourself down or negative self-talk across this compass of shame. And again, on the north and south axis, at the top at the North Star, it would be withdrawing, isolating oneself, or running and hiding. And on the south point of the compass would be avoidance, like denial, and just kind of distracting yourself with other things. Okay. So dealing with the shame of when you've been kind of called into a space to be held accountable is hard. And you want to find the proper resources, be it clinical resources such as a therapist or a counselor or even a pastoral support. You want to find ways to process how you feel about just dealing with the disappointment in the situation. You may not feel like it's actually accurate, but the fact that you had to be called in to be held accountable to this, there may be some shame there, and you should find proper resources to deal with it. Okay. That pairs with the second piece of support. Okay. If you're given any corrective measures, there should be a documented support or expectations that they want you to participate in. But as far as support goes, that can look a number of different ways. You could ask your department chair, you could ask your supervisor to just provide some encouragement, or support also looks like asking for some structure or some training. Okay. So think about what you need to feel supported and make sure it's not just a performative thing. It's things that you actually feel like can help you, get back into the swing of things and being who you are. And lastly, it's accountability. Okay. You may need to really understand, what does this mean for my career? What does this mean? Am I no longer eligible for certain things as a member of this community? If so, for how long? Really understand what's there. And if there's a time frame on those things, respect the time frame. Okay. And then also, once you're kind of done with the punitive measure, get right back to demonstrating who you truly are and giving yourself more evidence to affirm who you are. Okay. Being accountable really means you understand, you can take the consequences, and you also understand that you can bounce back. If you feel like your reputation has been harmed, interpersonally, that may or may not be the case. People may not know what you've been through. And if you keep your information confidential, that's a choice. If you tell your best friend at work, that's a choice. Once the information is out there, it is really hard to contain. Okay. So be responsible with your information, but also understand that everyone is going to be entitled to feel how they feel about it. It's your job to make sure you honor kind of the process and the investigation, to be accountable to the outcome, and give yourself the permission to not have to feel obligated to share it with people. Okay. You don't have to share the things. You do want to make the correction and move forward, though. Okay. And any good employer, any good leader worth their weight wants to see you thrive after those mishaps and those slip ups. Okay. They do want you to be successful, because it is hard it's hard to hire good people. And if you had a bad day, being held accountable, there's nothing wrong with being held accountable. We do it for students all the time, but they're still able to remain in community. Okay. So hopefully that's something to think about. And, hopefully you never find yourself in that position. But if you have, or if you do, it's okay to get support for the shame, find ways to be accountable, and go ahead and make choices. So, all right, folks, have a great weekend. So glad that I could join you on the way to school. Thanks for joining me on the way to school. Stay inspired, stay motivated, and keep making a difference. I'm Christopher S. Dennis. See you tomorrow.